Welcome to the Visitor Center, everybody. Fredericksburg. Before the Civil War, Fredericksburg was a community typical of hundreds in the South. Throughout famous of his atrocity with George Washington and his mother, Mary, the riverside port town enjoyed only modern economy success in 1860. One observer called Fredericksburg the only finished town in America. Another, with a tone of approval, noted that the town was devoid of Yankee restlessness and greed. On the eve of the Civil War, about 5,000 people lived here, 1/3 of them slaves. Of the 5 bridges along a 184-mile length of the Rappahannock River in 1860. 3 of them were at Fredericksburg. That network of roads and railroad would attract armies during the coming war. Press the buttons below to reveal the locations. Gasworks.
Look at this part. This was probably the whole town of
Gasworks.
Fredericksburg.
Town dock. The Chatham Bridge right there.
Chatham Bridge.
Chatham Bridge. We actually went over that. Under that, actually.
Under it,
The Chatham Bridge. Mary's.
Well, that's... Oh, yeah.
Mary's Heights, yeah. The Telegraph Road. Over here.
Way up there.
The Fairgrounds, Mercer Square. Over there. The African Baptist Church.
All the slaves went there, yeah.
Oh my God.
And they could go to church, yeah.
The Circum Courthouse.
Circuit.
The Circuit Courthouse.
You know what? You're a good reader, but what you do is, after you get the beginning of the word, then you leave it. You're in a hurry. Look at you dancing around.
The Richmond, Fredericksburg, and Potomac Railroad.
Now, where was that one? Okay.
Right over there. The Orange Plank Road.
That's a big deal, that road. In battle.
Red.
Is this good? Is this, you wanted to do this too?
Yeah. But she said we can also, drive to Chancellorsville since it's not that far.
You in Chancellorsville. Okay. After we're done here.
Yeah, after we're done.
Do that at the end.
Yeah, we're well done with that. A rebellious town. Military and politic calculations. Twice brought Union armies.
Taking pictures of this, why are you also
armies to Fredericksburg in 1862, once to occupy, once to fight. The first Union occupation lasted 4 months. In the spring and summer of 1862, white residents suffered outrage, while many slaves saw Union soldiers as deliverers.
See? Finish the word. Deliverers.
It says, quote, "We Confederates treat the Yankees with silent with contentment. Contempt. They little know the hatred in our hearts towards them, the great scorn we entertain for Yankees. I never hear or see a Federal riding down the street that I don't wish his neck may be broken before he crosses the bridge." 16-year-old Lizzie.
They just hated the Yanks.
Yeah. Outrage and fear.
And in some towns, they still don't like the Yankees here in the South.
Oh, look at this. The Union Army devils or deliverers. Fredericksburg slave John Washington. I recognize Washington. I think he was a cousin or a nephew of of George Washington. I think he What does this do? Those buttons. Arrival of the Union Army. Touch screen, okay? Ah. Oh. Oh! These are the speeches. These are the quotes that they give. Just touch. It's so green.
So you'd be able to see it in the room. Is that what you mean?
Yeah. Yeah, why is it so quiet?
That little house that we saw by the parking lot,
Yeah.
that's the bookstore that you want to go in.
Yeah.
And they have restrooms over there.
Exodus.
Exodus means,
Exodus.
do you know what that means?
I think a war.
No, an exodus means the end or the end
The
of.
arrival of the
or
Union Army.
End of the
The end of the battle.
escape, or
The escape.
escape from, you know.
The city. Yeah, yeah. The arrival of the Union
City,
Army
yeah.
in spring of 1862 promoted one of the largest floods of refugees in American history. Oh my God. Slaves seeking freedom within Union lines. That spring and summer, as many as 10,000 slaves fled to freedom from...
Look, read that word, F-L-E-D.
fled to freedom from Fredericksburg and surrounding counties. Most of them crossing the Rappahannock River at Fredericksburg.
Right here,
Some
see?
remain.
That's why it's called an exodus. They're
That's
leaving.
the river.
Yeah.
Rappahannock
They're
River.
fleeing to freedom. Yeah.
Those are actually the slaves, actually. Those were... Some remained within the Union Army as cooks and camp servants. Contraband, which is another word for servants.
No. The contrabands are usually like people that were stolen or people that ran away and hid.
The soldiers called them receiving rations and paid of about 25 cents a day. For many, the first pay they have ever received.
The slaves were never paid. That's why they're slaves.
What?
That's why they're slaves.
What?
They are held captive by their owners, and they only do what
continue
their owners tell them.
Others continue northward to join Washington and points beyond.
Read it.
No, yeah.
Take time to read the whole word.
Commencing. Oh yeah.
Commencing means starting.
An uncertain journey into freedom.
Right.
This is the Union, I think. Yeah, that's the Union Army. During the spring and summer of 1862.
What time is it?
9:52.
I'm going to go down to the restroom. It's in that bookstore building. All right?
Yeah, all the way here.
Okay.
The flea farms and the petition and the politicians and the counties. I won't. Surrounding Fredericksburg, some even crossed the Potomac from Maryland to reach the Union lines. One man undertook the perilous race for freedom from more than 60 miles away, south of Richmond. Slaves on the move. The Union Army was blocking. What is this? Journey to... Oh, yeah. That's the Farmer's Bake in Fredericksburg. Two-thirds of the slaves were in Spotsylvania County. They have fled to freedom, many never to return. Between 1860 and 1870, Spotsylvania lost 30% of its African American population. Stanford County, north of the Rappahannock, lost 60%. It would take decades for the population of those counties to recover to their wartime levels. Oh my God. Oh, these are the pictures of faces of Fredericksburg, swept by war. They don't give the names of these people. Let's check over here. Advice to volunteers: let your beard grow so as to protect the throat and lungs. A Michigan soldier looted Confederate flags from Fredericksburg in December 1862. Wow, look at that. Oh, yeah, this is... Yeah, I've seen this before. Yeah, I've seen this before. Well, I've never been here, but I've seen the picture. I've seen the picture. They must... Oh my God. Distant rumbling after the firing on Fort Sumter in Charleston, South Carolina. On April 12, 1861. White residents of Fredericksburg and the surrounding counties of Stanford and Spotsylvania overwhelmingly supported slaves and free blacks had no vote on the matter. In May of 1861, Virginia formally became part of the new Confederate States of America. Young men by the thousands flocked to the new Confederate flag. Local women formed the Mutuals Aid and Soldiers Relief Society to make socks, uniforms, cadrets, and anything else useful to new Confederate soldiers. Well, a slave's view. The upper part of Fredericksburg, as it appears in 1863, the steeple of Fredericksburg Ballistic Church, right, and the St. George's Episcopal Church, along within the rounded couple of the circular courthouse, still dominate by the tower's skyline. A slave's view, Fredericksburg, slave John Washington. This. Take this. YC. Fredericksburg, 662. Richmond, that's the railroad that it was on. This is the Virginia Central Railroad. Orange Courthouse. Calpeper Courthouse. Orange and Alexander Railroad. Manassas Gate Railroad. Manassas Junction. That's where we're going next. There's Washington. Hancover Junction. Boy, excuse me. Richmond is right here. Let's go over here. So over here. I am way up here. Over here. Over here. I am way up here. A fatal mistake. Through the Union Army arrived opposite Fredericksburg days before Lee's Confederates in November 1862. The Federals blundered, but not having pontooned bridges ready to move the army quickly across the Rappahannock River. By the time the briquettes arrived, 10 days later, the Confederates were strongly positioned on high ground west and south of the town. The delay, the strong Confederate position, and the Union General Burnside's decisions to cross at Fredericksburg anyway shaped the battle to come. Floating bridges. The success of the Union advance at Fredericksburg depended on the bridging of the river. To do that, the army used floating bridges to build with pontoon boats. Specifically trained soldiers called engineers built the bridges according to boats 20 feet apart, lashing connecting timbers called bolts and putting down plank floorboards called cheesers. 13-foot wide bridges could carry wagons, heavy guns, and hundreds of troops. At Fredericksburg, I'm over here. At Fredericksburg, the river was more than 400 feet wide. Each bridge was required at least 20 boats. Read this over here. Over here. Build your own bridge. Oh, you can build your own bridge. Such a feeling of anxiety, suspense I never experienced. I could sanctually breathe. Assistant Surgeon Clark Bannon, 5th New York Engineers. Oh yeah, the Confederate positions.
So the Confederates won this battle.
Yes. Cause the Union troops were here before Lee's Confederates in the November of 1862.
Taken care of
the Union were positioned along the bridges. They were building the bridges. Like, read this over here.
Yeah.
Floating bridges.
Yeah.
They were American Heights.
Here, look, here's bridge folks.
They were seeing boats.
The bridges were just made out of this kind of wood. Not
Here's
like
the eve of the battle, the pontoon crossings. Look. By December 11th, 1862, the Union Army was at last ready to bridge the river.
Parker, are these ours?
Yeah.
Okay.
Army engineers would build 6 bridges at 3 locations. Look at this. Quote, such as a feeling of anxiety and suspense I never experienced. I could scarcely breathe.
No. Almost, but you're leaving out a letter.
Scarcely breathe.
See, you always cut your words
Assistant
short.
Surgeon Clark.
No, Surgeon.
Surgeon.
No, Sir.
Surg.
Soft G.
Oh, Surg.
Surg. Soft. Surgy.
Surgy.
Surgeon.
Surgeon.
Yeah.
Okay.
G is soft.
Clark.
J. Surgeon.
The 5th New York Engineers.
What's 5th?
50th. They're black.
I'm gonna get
Oh,
you
I
to
see.
read better if it kills me.
Oh, they were crossing the Rappahannock River.
Yeah.
One side, they were positioned on lower pontoon crossing.
But that was Burnside. They were too late to do all that. Is that
Yeah.
the deal?
They were Burnside and Lee. They were positioned on Stanford Heights.
Okay.
One
Wherever
of the
the-
Union troops here were on Ferry Farm.
And Lacey.
Chatham, yeah.
What time is it?
10:03.
Because we can go. The film will be here in what 10:30.
Yeah.
So we may as well just stay here.
The bus, yeah. We
Not
can
the
do the
bus.
walking tour later.
The film. I mean, they're gonna.
The film.
Talk to
We can
us
do the
and-
walking tour later.
Okay. I do want to go to the bookstore to see if there's
Yeah.
anything there that you want.
Yeah. And Lee's Confederates were. Oh yeah, we were on Sunken Road. See,
That was out here.
Yeah, that was when the Confederate troops were positioned here in
But I don't know why we need to go
Heights.
talk to people.
You
You
see,
know all this
come.
stuff.
You see,
You could give a talk.
yeah. The Richmond and Fredericksburg
Railroad.
and Potomac Railroad were connecting the Confederate supplies and stuff.
Confederates.
Yes, Confederate were here on Bearhead.
We're down there.
It was actually, you see all this? That's that right there. Well, in a different angle.
Well, this
but-
is it. Yeah, this is
Yeah.
the bridges that they
Yeah.
built.
This
But
was
what I don't
actually, they were
understand
positioned
is
actually
they
on the
built-
town.
But they built those bridges before the attack started.
Yeah, because it
So
was the
why-
battle in the town, so. In the town. I've been seeing this location
They
here.
had gotten themselves positioned early. That's the deal, right?
Yeah, look. Here are some houses that were damaged from the heavy guns and rapid fire of the main guns. While a few houses still
Oh, look,
bear
it's still there.
visible exterior damage from shelling, dozens of damage hidden in roofs, walls, and floors. This shell fragment came from the house of artist John Elder on William Street.
Is this the shell?
Yes, that's the shell.
Look how big those are.
The shell damage. Oh yeah, this is the Baptist Church.
Princess Anne Street.
Princeton Anne Street. Churches suffered particularly in the bombardment of December
Oh,
11th.
Yeah, because
We bombed the churches and stuff.
because they could anybody Union can they can
Yeah.
hide up in there.
Look,
and get a
it
good-
shows you the bat. Well, this is a reenactment of the battle, but it shows you what it would like. Look, what's that being press this button here? You see,
the building.
they're
and-
building the bridges. Okay. Wow.
Yeah, now they're gonna ambush them.
Union soldiers were trapped on the bridges and they could not escape. Confederate soldiers just annihilate them into steel. Just annihilate them. Here we go.
100 were burned or destroyed.
Before daylight on December 11th, the Union Army started building bridges at 3 locations on the Rappahannock River. As soon dawn revealed the bridge builders, Confederates on the upper and middle crossing sites opened fire, bringing construction up to a bloody halt. The Union Army responded with a massive bombardment. At its height, more than 150 guns fired on Fredericksburg. As many as 100 shells per minute burst over the town. The bombardment did not drive the Confederates away, but did great damage to
See, I
Fredericksburg.
don't think Manassas
At
is gonna be
100
this
buildings
nice.
were burned or destroyed. Those civilians left in the town huddled in basements. 2 civilians died,
Yeah.
a young shopkeeper and a female slave, along with dozens of Confederate soldiers.
So the soldiers. That's why I don't get it. Where the Confederates
See, that's the picture.
won this war, this battle.
When the bombardment failed to drive away the Confederate sharpshooters at the upper crossing site, men of the 7th Michigan volunteered to attempt a cross-river landing using Podo boats.
I don't know why you're.
It was
No, read that word again.
pontoon boats. It was one of the dramatic
Always in a hurry.
movements of the battle. The Michigan soldiers made it across, and they, with others, fought their way into the streets of Fredericksburg. More Union troops followed as soon the The bridge builders resumed their work. By the evening, the Confederates had yielded the town to the Federals. Thousands of Union troops poured across the bridges. Here it is. Quote, the boats were the kind used in constructing the bridge, large, clumsy things.
Yeah,
They
so
were
if they
so
weren't that
heavily
big.
loaded they seemed hardly to move. But if they had been propelled 4 times as fast as it would have seemed to slow to us who were so anxiously watching from our side of the river. Battery 1, 1st United States Artillery. 1st Union Art. Base. What? Hardest days. Bombardment. Oh my god, he was a musician. Joseph R.C. Ward. 106th 60th Pennsylvania. 106th Pennsylvania.
The sixth. Look at this. The destruction, the looting appalled, even so, the residents who fled their homes often lost everything.
Oh my god. Oh my god. Take a look at the map here. Between 2 capitals. Take a look at this. Shows you where the locations are. We're right over somewhere in here.
Parker, I can see that, honey. I'm glad for your instructions.
Spotsylvania Courthouse. Chancellorsville. Wilderness.
Here's the Rappahannock River. Parker.
Yep.
See, it's just little tributaries up here, and then it really gets dry down here.
According to that picture, I think the Union soldiers were somewhere building the bridges somewhere around here.
Yeah,
Here's the railroad. Here's the Virginia Central Railroad. South Anna River, James River. Hanover Junction.
Tomorrow morning, we'll go up that way.
Manassas Gap.
And north.
Manassas Junction. That was the first major battle of the Civil War.
This wasn't considered a major battle.
Yeah, it actually was. Because it was in the town.
But why did you say? But the historians say Manassas was the most major.
It was the first major battle.
Rather than this place.
Yeah. Let's take a look over here.
Oh yeah.
The battle. Wow. Look at that. Return from Marion's Heights. Union troops watch as the Renards.
10:30. When the thing starts. What time is it?
10:12.
Okay. I'm gonna sit in this chair. I'm rolling my backwards. Sorry.
Return from
You're never
Marion's.
gonna want me to take you anywhere.
What?
You're never gonna want me to take you anywhere again.
Ugh, why?
Because I'm old.
Return from Marion Heights.
Now, Parker, see the cost. See that uniform.
That's the Union troops.
Yeah. See the uniform.
Yeah.
To this day, our Army, U.S. Army,
We wear
have
green.
uniform with those capes on it for dress.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, here we go. Here's the battle.
In 1862, Fredericksburg was one of the most famous places on earth, the focal point of the Civil War. Frog elections in the New
See, I like this doing this.
and the impending Emancipation Proclamation made Republican Abraham
I
Lincoln
like doing this inside, because the outside's killing me.
Yeah.
Andrew E. Burnside led the Union's largest army, 130,000 men, on to Richmond by way of Fredericksburg. The Rappahannock River and missing pontoon bridges stopped him. Robert E. Lee quickly blocked the road south with 78,000 Confederates.
Do you realize how many
No pressure
people that
compelled
is?
Burnside to attack.
78,000.
December 11th.
On December 11th, Confederate sharpshooters were leading the Union Army after Richmond. Concentrated his army on the hills beyond the town. Burnside bombarded the town and staged a cross-river landing. Fighting raged in the streets.
Can't crack that.
Burnside could only attack 2 points, Maurice Heights and Prospect Hill, but only one held any promise for Union victory, Prospect Hill. A successful attack there, on the south end of the Confederate line, might cut off the Confederates from their capital in Richmond.
December 13th.
December 13, as the mist lifted, Union troops started to move. A single gun, commanded by young Confederate artillerist John Pellet, delayed the Union advance for nearly an hour. Then dozens of cannon on both sides joined in a fierce artillery duel. Not until 1 p.m. did the
See,
Union
they're
attack.
Catholics.
Union General George Gordon Meade led the assault. Meade's men struck a 600-yard gap in Jackson's line. They broke through. Meade needed support. None came to him directly. But John Gibbon's division pushed forward to his right. Gibbon too broke through, but the Confederates counterattacked, driving the Federals back. The battle came to a climax at a place known ever after as the Slaughter Pen. By 2:30, the fighting on the south end of the field ended. Jackson's line was restored. While Union troops battled in front of Prospect Hill, Burnside launched a series of diversionary attacks against the Sunken Road and Maurice Heights.
Yeah.
William H. French's division was first, mostly to be devastated. Then Oliver Otis Howard's division and Samuel Sturgis's division, they all had a similar fate. When the Union attacked Prospect Hill, Burnside feared a counterattack from Confederates on Maurice Heights. To prevent a Confederate attack, he hurled still more troops against the Sunken Road. Charles Griffin, Andrew A. Humphreys, and Rush Hawkins all advanced with no hope of success. Thousands of Union soldiers became trapped in the open, with only a gentle swing of protection. The assault reached its peak just as darkness covered the battlefield. Two days later, the Union Army retreated across the river. It had suffered 13,000 casualties, dead and wounded. Lee lost only a fraction of that number. Though the Union Army survived to fight another day, the war entered its darkest period for the Union cause. And Southerners hoped Lee's resounding victory meant independence was closer than ever before.
To keep their slaves, that's all they cared about.
Yeah.
Beating them and cruel, so cruel to them.
Yeah. Sunken Road between the 48 hours. Wow.